Well, and Eileen also has been my long-standing Sufi friend on a Sufi path, more like another mother from Colorado. I have a lot of mothers from different places, which I kind of love. Anyway, so welcome to Friday. Post-election Friday. We never talk politics on this channel, but we can't ignore elections, of course. So it'll be interesting. We'll have some interesting developments in upcoming months and years. It'll be interesting to see how Trump's administration can handle some core healthcare related issues. We'll ride this wave one way or another, regardless of what we think about outcomes of this election. I'm going to stay neutral here, as we always try. And yeah, so I don't know. Whatever you feel, a reminder, remember that very famous saying that, we should be able to keep a track of things we can control, let go of things we can't, and have a wisdom to separate that too. So with that in mind, let's jump to ongoing news. Two big things. First of all, the survey just a couple of days ago been published showing that 30% of Americans do not trust vaccines, COVID vaccines, which, it's interesting that Trump is going to name Kennedy as one of the healthcare advocates who's strongly opposing all the vaccines, not just COVID vaccines. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this going to play out. I don't actually think that things are going to change dramatically. I think people who accept vaccines will continue to do so. The 30% of Americans who think that vaccines are like my mother-in-law, it's fine. I mean, she's not going to see this. She doesn't speak Russian English well anyway, so she's not going to see this video. Who believes that, if you take a vaccine, you get chipped by Microsoft, and the gate's going to come after you with all the mights of his computerized power and going to turn you into a zombie. That's what she believes. I'm not going to try to convince her because she's my mother-in-law. I don't think there's any point of me trying to do so. So, their point being is that there's a significant proportion of Americans who are going to believe what they're going to believe. And, again, I think it's fine. I think the reality is such. It's actually a critical number. So remember, each disease has a high transmissibility has a particular number of how many people have to be vaccinated before the herd immunity is achieved. At this point, most of the population has either been vaccinated or sick or both. And so that's why we're not really seeing the progression of epidemic as such. We basically now have the COVID turned another flu. And I predict, as I already said that many times before, we're just going to keep at it. So that's that. COVID is still it's actually, I just saw the report saying that it's still the most communicable disease as of this week. What that basically means is that, we're not going to expect a change in the numbers, meaning that, COVID's still going to be continuously very prevalent. I'm sure there are going to be episodes when some other illnesses will be more prevalent, but COVID will continue to stay on top. And, I think with that in mind, we'll keep tracking it. Lastly, I think really fascinating article. I don't know if I'll find it quickly. If I find it when I stop talking, I'll put the link in the chat. Up to 30% of all Chinese adults now have long COVID symptoms. Up to 30%. You know what that means? It means that more than 1 billion people have long COVID now, at least there, according to their statistics. Now, I didn't read the whole thing to decide whether or not this would qualify in our mind, like the way we think of long COVID, but nonetheless, I think it's a scary and staggering numbers just to remind us that this disease is not all that benign, and we should do everything we can to effectively treat and prevent this. And I think that's all I have, except to say that we just had a really successful EDS podcast, Endless Download Syndrome. It's a hypermobility syndrome. We did an open virtual house. Jennifer was there, and we're going to post this on our video on our YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. So if you hadn't had a chance to see it, we'll make sure that it's there for everybody. And of course, when we here and on Friday, I'll make sure at some point I'll put the link when it's up there. But actually, the easiest way is for you to go and subscribe to YouTube channel so you don't miss it, because once it's up, you will get a notification that it's up if you subscribe to a channel. That's actually true with every channel, not just with my channel, CIM channel. And that's all I have. I didn't want to take any more time so that Jennifer and Eileen have plenty of time. So let's do a couple of minutes of questions, and at 1:15 maybe or so, we'll move on to the next part. You know the drill. Cecile is asking, Cecile, this is okay if I mention, because you sent this to me personally.
No, it's for the group if you want to address it.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good question. So could you go over again getting a pneumonia vaccine booster? So, the CDC has updated recommendations. I want to say 2 years ago. I could be wrong about the exact date here, maybe 3. So the newest vaccine, just remember, I put the number in there. It's called 23, is a PSVC 23. That's the one you want to get if you had a previous pneumonia vaccine. Now, most people who are over 65 had a previous shot. It was Prevnar, or there's different names for it. Often there would be a number 13 in there. So if you had that one, you get 23 one time and you're done. There are some other vaccines, but this is basically in short. The easiest way to look this up, if you go to CDC, if you just type in pneumonia vaccine CDC, the first thing you're going to get is this kind of standard recommendation. But that's the current booster suggestion. It's recommended for all people over 65. The way I think about this, I strategize a little bit. So I don't necessarily going to give a booster to 66-year-old healthy person, right? I may say, look, let's wait till 70, or I may say, let's look into your personal risks. If you have a different lung diseases, like maybe chronic obstructive lung disease, COPD, or maybe an asthma, then I may even strongly recommend, even if you're not 65, even at 60, I may say, well, go get it, because you're probably at much higher risk of complications if you do get pneumonia. So that's the way I think about it. Now, I think the CDC has a very more clear outline of who should be getting it, so you can check that out. But there is some personalization. So it's not a blank statement the way I think about this. So yeah.
Excuse me. So what is
Gates
the
already doesn't need to. Yep. If you have a cell phone, it's a name. It's a vaccine name. It's a P. Let me give you guys exact links. So
what is the 23 and the 13 that you mentioned?
There are different types of vaccines or boosters. So the P. Let me put this up there. So the exact name here's the link, because you asked about the booster. So if you already had one vaccine, you will be getting the booster that's called PPSV23. That's the exact name of vaccine you need to get. So that's the exact name of the vaccine, because it does not include some older strains that you already have covered if you had any older vaccines. Right now, there are multiple different vaccines. So if you never had one, the general recommendation is to get something called PCV20. I think you can just walk into the CVS or any pharmacy and ask for it. I don't think you even need an order. I'm pretty sure of that. They just follow standard guidelines. If you walk into the pharmacy and say, I would like to get a pneumonia booster, they'll ask you, have you had a pneumonia shot before? If you say yes, then they'll give you PPSV23, just automatic. There's only one. There's only one booster, basically. The other ones, the PCV20 is the new one. It's like if you never had it before, then you get that one. Okay, I think we have 1 minute, so maybe one last burning question. And again, if you're my patient and if you have something more personal, just stay after, and then I'll talk to you personally.
Dr. Kogan, this is Salome.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had pneumonia vaccine or not. I don't remember. I thought I did.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I did? Oh, okay. Thank you. Then I didn't have to do it.
No problem. Oh, article on China. Okay, right. Hold on. Yeah, I'll find it. I often look at these things online on my phone, so then I have to get the link from the no problems. Okay, well, it's 1:15. I really want to make sure Jennifer has space to talk about what she needs to talk about, so I'm gonna get rid of my spotlight and I'll find that link. Jennifer, thanks so much for being here, and we're looking forward to your wisdom, dear.
Okay, my pleasure. It's great to see everybody. And what I've chosen to talk about today for a host of reasons is the management of Vata dosha. So Vata is very active during fall season, and it's also very activated by stress and ambiguity and uncertainty. And so I think that is relevant for the time that we're all experiencing. So let me just say a quick thing about Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurveda is a comprehensive, personalized system of primary care that treats the whole patient, body, mind, spirit. From an Ayurvedic perspective, Vata type conditions, which we'll be discussing, can also be combined with Pitta type, which may be inflammatory in nature, or Kapha type, which may be congestive in nature. So those symptoms can also be present even when Vata is the primary causal factor. And that depends on the constitution or imbalance of the patient. So a nuanced, intricate, personalized protocol is needed for treating both the symptoms and the doshic, which is bioenergetic imbalances, at a comprehensive biopsycho-spiritual systems level. The Ayurvedic approach includes diet, lifestyle, modifications to daily routine, as well as herbs and supplements to support tissue health and restoring systems harmony. As a yoga therapist, I also use all 8 limbs of yoga to enhance the Ayurvedic medicine approach. So Vata is comprised of the elements of space and air. Having little substance, it can create loneliness, asceticism, feelings of isolation or alienation. That's kind of the psycho-emotional picture. Those with Vata constitution or Vata imbalance may be prone to anxiety, insomnia, poor digestion and elimination, tending towards constipation, musculoskeletal disorders, hearing loss, or cognitive decline. So those are just a very brief summary. That's not comprehensive. These folks are also inspired, creative, active, easy to forgive, and fun to talk to. So they tend to be quite chatty people. Vata, some of the qualities of Vata are that it is mobile, cold, light, dry, and unstable. And you can see this in fall season. Fall season, there's a lot of wind. It is tending towards a colder climate. There's a lot of dryness in the air, and the change in, you know, the way that nature appears shows a time of transition. Cool, windy, dry weather of fall season aggravates Vata dosha. Times of change and uncertainty aggravate Vata. Feelings of insecurity and ambiguity aggravate Vata. Rapid change and high stress events aggravate Vata. Trauma also aggravates Vata dosha. And from my perspective, it is important that we normalize trauma, as over the course of a lifetime, the vast majority of us will experience multiple traumatic events. And though we're not talking specifically about anything political today, any kind of social turmoil, the Earth poly crisis, which is really relevant for all of us and which we're experiencing whether it's really conscious or not, and also the breakdown of our healthcare and social support systems is exacerbating our experience of trauma at this time. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. Psychological trauma is often processed physiologically, and that's important. And this process is well explained in books like The Body Keeps the Score and some other very popular titles that are out there. So I just want to talk a little bit about tools and techniques to pacify Vata. And I'm always happy to answer any questions that you may have, you know, when we're done here. But very briefly, moving slowly through your day with intention, breathing deeply and exhaling fully is one very simple thing we can do to pacify Vata. Staying warm, keeping your feet and head covered, so wearing hats and socks and kind of closing off the polar opposites of the body, the head and the feet is another way to do that. And there are also yoga poses that we use to close off the poles of the body to create kind of an energetic loop and retain energy rather than distributing energy. So that's another way we can do it. one great way to pacify Vata dosha is to establish a routine and stick with it. The one consistent thing about Vata dosha is that it is inconsistent. So consistency pacifies Vata. Eating 3 meals a day at relatively the same time is very good for Vata dosha. Skipping meals can aggravate Vata. Any type of less than optimal food intake in terms of nutrient quality and quantity is another thing that can aggravate Vata. And this is kind of a catch-22 because sometimes Vata has less appetite because the digestive fire is cold if Vata is aggravated. So that's something we work with through herbs, supplements, changing dietary content and routines. In fall and winter, when the day is shorter, we can get up earlier and go to sleep earlier. This is important to really capture the light that is available to us during the day, and maintaining regular sleep and wake times is also important. So oftentimes patients with Vata imbalance will come to me and I'll say, well, what's your routine? And what time do you go to sleep? What time do you eat your meals? And they'll say, it varies. And that is my first indicator that Vata may be aggravated because there's just a lot of instability and variability within the routine of somebody who has aggravated Vata dosha. So we want to eat warm, moist, complex, nutrient-dense foods. So because Vata is dry by nature, we can think about soups, stews. We can think about things that are creamy and dense. Those are both qualities that also pacify Vata. So homemade rice pudding or egg custard is great during fall season. Baked apples with cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, nutmeg. Those are all warming spices, so they will promote digestion for somebody who is Vata constitution or Vata imbalance. And because, again, Vata is dry by nature, we want to use nourishing oils to cook with, but also to add to our foods. And some of you know about ghee, which is clarified butter. So this is considered kind of a very important substance in Ayurvedic medicine. And it nourishes not just the digestive tract, but all the tissues of the body. And it's good for the immune system. So you also want to cook with oils like olive oil, avocado oil, raw rather than roasted sesame oil. And all of these are either heavy and or warming, and so they will pacify the qualities of Vata dosha, not just the dry quality, but also the light quality, which is another one of Vata's qualities. And so because light is one of the qualities associated with Vata dosha, so in Vata season, which is fall, or if Vata is aggravated, we want to eat heavier, denser, creamier, smoother, more warming food. So we don't want to, during fall or winter, really rely on things like salads or foods that are cold out of the refrigerator. We want to warm them up, and we want to have some light proteins, whether you're vegetarian or not. We can make sure that protein-rich foods are there, and that can be in legumes or tofu, or it can be in the form of fish, chicken. So Vata doesn't have the best digestive fire, so we don't recommend that Vata eats a lot of beef or pork because these are very difficult to digest. And so the natural digestive fire of a Vata predominant person is not going to be necessarily optimal to metabolize those. So we don't recommend those very difficult to digest meats. You can eat a lot of winter squashes and root vegetables, spice your foods well, eat them warmed, eat nutrient-dense foods. And it's really important that you sit with an attitude of mindfulness at meals. Since Vata is mobile by nature, Vata tends to do everything quick and run around and multitask. And so Vata will listen to a podcast while eating, or watch TV, or maybe just jump up from a meal midway through and forget to go back. And so eating with an attitude of mindfulness is very important for pacifying Vata dosha, but also for promoting digestion in a person who has naturally Vata inflected metabolic and elimination processes. What else did I want to say? The best time to exercise in the fall and winter season is going to be midday when there's the warmth from the sun there. So it will help us to absorb and retain some body heat. Move more slowly during this time with the rhythms of nature. Engage in contemplative practices that allow the mind to turn inward. and use this season as a time of reflection and to conserve energy. If we're thinking about doing yoga, we can think about incorporating slower yogic practices with slower transitions, longer holds. So you don't want to do a really quick vinyasa practice if you're trying to pacify Vata dosha. And you can emphasize forward bending and seated poses and supine chest openers. These are things that will pacify Vata dosha. Some of the most important things are going to be self-compassion, self-love, self-nurturing. These are great tools for pacifying Vata dosha. Developing the capacity to self-soothe will expand our capacity to offer support to others. And Vata predominant folks are maybe not the optimal self-soothers in terms of their original constitution. Might be something they have to work on a little bit more than other folks because they are prone to worry, anxiety, and rumination. So it's so important for healthy expression of Vata to promote and seek out community, connection, collaboration, connecting with friends, be mindful of any tendency to isolate, and commit oneself to reaching out so that we don't fall into patterns of loneliness or isolation. I think that what I want to do is just introduce a really important but short breathing practice that pacifies Vata dosha. And so I want to say that overall, Ayurvedic medicine is very beneficial for addressing nervous system imbalance, mood disorders, immune system building, and any kind of gastrointestinal conditions. And breath work, one of the arms of yoga, is helpful to calm the mind and nervous system and alleviate stress. So in a very general sense, when we're attempting to pacify Vata dosha, we want to breathe slowly and evenly and focus on complete exhalations. Inhale from the bottom of the ribs up to the clavicles, exhale from the clavicles to the bottom of the ribs out, and allow each new inspiration to arise naturally. So Vata tends to breathe more shallowly in general, and so we don't want to encourage breathing practices that involve holding the breath, constraining the breath. Even sometimes breathing exercises that involve counting can be aggravating to the mind. So we want to just really emphasize natural breathing patterns with full expansion of the abdomen. And since Vata is very oriented towards the outside world, sometimes withdrawal of the senses, which is called pratyahara in yoga, is very beneficial for Vata. Vata tends to talk a lot. If you are ever in a position where you have to give a presentation, or you're at a conference or at a crowd of people and you're just talking, you notice that it's very hard for the mind to calm down after that. There's sort of a long runway to peace of mind, and that's because Vata both talks a lot, but talking a lot also aggravates Vata dosha. So silence is very therapeutic to both Vata constitutions and also to Vata imbalances. Meditation stabilizes and grounds the mind and is very useful. And lastly, I just want to say that mantra is also soothing to the nervous system. One of the primary sites of Vata in the body is the ears. And so it can be aggravating to Vata to listen to very loud music or extended, music without any silence interspersed. And so sometimes when we generate sound within the body, it's very soothing. And so mantra is one of the ways to do that. And this breathing pattern I'm going to just teach quickly now is sort of a combination of both breath work and mantra, because you're self-generating a humming sound. So there's an aspect of sound healing here. And so this is called Brahmari Pranayam. And Brahmari Pranayam, I'll demonstrate quickly, and then I'd like us all to do sort of 10 rounds together. So as with all breathing and yogic practices, you want to have a nice straight spine. You want to have the feet planted into the floor or the earth, if that's available to you. Shoulders back and down. You want to have the sternum moving out, but the navel moving in. And then you just want to gently tuck the chin so the neck is nice and long. After that, you'll think about relaxing the jaw. You'll allow the tongue to fall back in the mouth. And you can close your eyes if you like. After you can watch me if you like, you may not need to, but what I'm going to do is breathe in naturally, very deeply from the tips of the bottom tip of the rib cage to the clavicle. And then as I exhale, I'm just going to hum. And what happens there is the teeth will be separated. You're not going to clench your teeth, but the lips will be together. So you'll just feel a vibration happening right there at the juncture of the lips. So it's like this. And so each person will have their own rhythm. Each person will have a different length of exhalation. We're not worried about what other people are doing. We're just going to go at our own pace. And I'll be the counter. So each of you just inhale deeply and with the exhalation hum until its natural endpoint. And then with no constraint of the breath, allow the next inhalation to naturally arise. Okay. And when we've done 10 rounds, I'll just give you a cue. So go ahead and begin. Okay, go ahead and finish up your final round of breath. And hopefully you all had a sensation of calming of the nervous system, of the sensation of circulating thoughts, and you feel a little bit restored and more balanced and at peace. So this is a tool that you can use any time of day. You cannot do it too much. There are no side effects, and it costs you absolutely nothing. So I encourage you to keep that in your back pocket.
So if you have any questions for Dr. Rioux, you can type them in the chat window or you can unmute yourself. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for bringing this information to us.
Jeanette, it looks like there's one question. Jennifer
Oh, there
Rioux.
is?
I think so.
I was going to ask you if you could
Okay.
just put in the chat how you spell this for one thing, because and whether there's any resources you would recommend for further information about this in a fairly introductory level.
Do you mean, when you say this, do you mean Ayurvedic medicine?
No, okay, Vata dosha. That was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any resources that are specific to Vata dosha, but I will think about something that might be useful. I mean, you know, I think there's a little bit on the GWCIM website about Ayurvedic medicine, and I can think while we're sitting here if there's any sort of preliminary. Are there any fragrances that are good for Vata? Yeah, so grounding fragrances. So vetiver is very nice. If you have access to vetiver essential oil, anything that's calming to the nervous system. So, you know, there's some very basic ones like lavender that will help to also to pacify Vata. There's quite a few. With essential oils, it's very important to be mindful of the, you know, complementary energetics. So if you have something that is heavy, you want to make sure it's also warming if you want to treat Vata. So you don't want, you know, a cold or light oil like peppermint that would aggravate Vata. So I think, you know, it's a fairly broad science, but just to give you a couple cues. And, you know, if we get very, you know, I encourage people to cultivate self-awareness around the energetics and understanding of the natural elements. Just in your everyday life, look around you and start assessing for yourself, what is light, dry, cold, mobile, heavy, gross, subtle, dense, sharp, you know, is in the foods that I'm eating, in the relationships that I have, in the natural elements that surround me. So just try to cultivate an awareness of the qualities. It's something we're not taught in this culture as children. And so, you know, by the time we make it to adulthood, we're really, you know, kind of behind in those types of skills of understanding the qualities of the natural elements in the foods that we eat and our relationships and the way we conduct ourselves. So, you know, these bits of information can come to us in meditation, but certainly when we partake in silence, withdrawal of the senses, or engagement with nature, all of those things will be more clear. Thank you so much. How long should you hum? You know, I usually recommend people start with 3 minutes, 3 minutes AM and PM, but it's a great thing to do. Like if you're in traffic, this is what you can do so that you don't engage in road rage, right? Because it instantly calms the nervous system and makes us less reactive. So, you know, if it's very, very difficult to do because your mind is quite busy, then just start with a minute. But 3 minutes is about what I typically recommend for people upon waking and before bed.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much. Dr. Yager, can you please lead us into your practices? You've been teaching a variety of different mindfulness for 30 years, more than 30 years, probably, right?
55.
55. Okay, well, you know, that's before I was born, so what would I?
I know.
So we're so excited you're back with us. Thank you so much for coming, and please take yours.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Misha. Well, thank you all for coming. What I wanted to say is I'm in Denver and we're having an unusual early snow. So it looks like a winter wonderland outside, but it's very cold and I'm glad I can stay in. What we've all experienced this week, you know, with the election means no matter what you feel, how you feel about it, there are going to be a lot of changes up ahead. And so I decided to do 2 meditations to help us bolster ourselves up. The first one is a meditation to remind yourself that you are enough, because we sometimes can feel overwhelmed and unworthy and not up to the task and not enough to meet the challenges that are going to come. I assume that everybody's life is going to get changed a little bit, some more than others. And there's nothing like comparisons and a diminished sense of worthiness to suck the joy out of your day. So it's our identity that defines us, not our experience. And you are a unique expression of life. There's never been anyone like you before, and there never will be anyone exactly like you again. So our journey through life is really composed of experiences and the things you think of and the attention that you pay to them. And you are enough, no matter who you are, what you are, you're enough. So let's do this meditation. By the way, Janet will be sending out handout to everybody who's here. So you'll get these 2 practices that we'll do to look at as you wish. Okay, so sit. The first thing is to sit with your back straight and put your feet on the floor unless you're sitting on a cushion. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. That's better. If it's not comfortable, then lower your gaze and sort of blur it so that you're not focusing sharply on what's in front of you. And notice that you are breathing. So take a deep breath in and out, 1 breath now. And drop your shoulders as you exhale. And now take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in positivity. Breathe out. Let go of stale air and stale stories. Keep your attention on the breath and relax your body as you exhale. And now we're going to do a few affirmations. I'll say it first, and then you can say it out loud or just think it. And take a deep breath at the end of each sentence. Okay. First one. I am a human being full of life and possibility. No one else is like me. I'll say it again, and you can repeat it either outwardly or inwardly. I am a human being full of life and possibility. No one else is like me. And take a deep breath. Okay, the next one. I have a right to make mistakes and recover. I have a right to make mistakes and recover. When you're done, a deep breath. Next one. I love myself unconditionally. I do not need anyone else's approval to love and be kind to myself. I love myself unconditionally. I do not need anyone else's approval to love and be kind to myself. Deep breath. Sometimes I do not know. It's okay not to know. What is not known is an invitation to be curious and to discover. Sometimes I do not know. It is okay not to know. What is not known is an invitation to be curious and to discover. Deep breath. And the last affirmation. I do my best. I let go of the rest.
I let go of the rest.
I do my best. I let go of the rest. Deep breath. And now return your attention to the breath. If your mind wanders off, come back to the home base of the breath. And just breathe with full attention. Okay. Now on the next breath, become aware of yourself in your chair. Feel your feet on the floor. If you'd like, you can wiggle your fingers and toes or stretch. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, open your eyes fully, come back here, and sit quietly for about 30 seconds. I recommend for anybody doing any kind of meditation or other practice, when you finish, sit for 30 seconds to a minute before you get up and move on to the next thing. It can be very jarring to your system, especially if you've been meditating, but even if you've been doing something else, to just leap up and run to do something else. So you have to sit for a short time to just allow your body to absorb the feeling that you've just been doing with the practice. Okay, so let's just sit while I mention what we're going to do next. Now, again, these are nice if you do them slower, but we don't have time right now. And that's one reason why I'm sending the handout to you, so that you can do this at your leisure. This next thing is about finding joy, because especially when things are so chaotic in the world, it's sometimes it's hard to recognize that things are really not so bad. Excuse me. We all want to be happy. Joy is not the same as happiness, although it may be present simultaneously. Joy is a feeling of a deep positive, it's like a deep positive feeling underneath the events of our lives, a feeling that everything is all right, even if the outer stuff isn't. Everything is impermanent and it's going to come to an end eventually. And joy includes gratitude to be alive, understanding that we all have resources to deal with life events, and being content. And this, you can have this feeling even when things on the outside aren't so good. And even if things are stressful, joy allows us to know that ultimately things are the way they should be, and we can deal with what's on our plate today. No matter what kind of practice you do personally, the idea is to be in the present moment as much as you can, and to deal with whatever comes into your sphere of being. So when you wake up in the morning, you say thank you for being alive in whatever way you like, because what's the alternative? And then you look at what you have ahead of you for the day. Sometimes it's good, and you know the expression, shit happens. It does. And you can often have a very mixed bag of stuff, where some of the things in that day are going to be wonderful, and some of them are going to be very hard and painful. But the feeling of joy underlies that, when you know that everything ultimately is really okay, and that you are enough. You have enough resources to deal with what you have to do, and that includes asking other people if you need to. So this is a practice that we're going to do that's called 8 breaths to joy. I like it very much. It helps to deal with difficult moments through the day. So the practice encourages compassion. Jennifer mentioned about the self-compassion is something that's important. It really is. Really is. You need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. And that means being kind to yourself, and not being guilty and beating yourself up and criticizing all the time, which many of us do. Okay, so these are these are 8 breaths, and you can do the practice in 8 breaths, or you can spend a few breaths on each one of them and take longer to do it. And that depends on what you want. Okay, now, each breath has something to do, and it also has a single word to help you remember how to focus your attention. So again, get comfortable with your back straight, your feet on the floor, your arms resting on either the arms of a chair or on your lap or on a piece of furniture, but your hands should not be clasped. They should be open. And again, I think that if you can do this with your eyes closed, it's better, but if not, it's okay to lower your gaze and unfocus it. With the first breath, bring your awareness to the sensation of your breathing. Pay attention to the physical sensation of the breath as it moves in and out. Follow your in-breath and out-breath from the very beginning to the end. And the word to say to yourself during this breath is breath. So go ahead and do it. Do a couple of them, not just one. With the second breath, bring your attention to all the sensations in your entire body. Some sensations will be pleasant, some unpleasant, and some neutral. And see if you can allow yourself to feel the sensations in your body without trying to change them at all. And pay special attention to any tension or heaviness or agitation. The word for this breath is body. So go ahead and do a couple. With the third breath, actively release all of the tension, heaviness, and agitation in your body. You can imagine, if you like, that it's being washed out of you with your out breath. And the word for this breath is release. All the tension, heaviness, and agitation. With the fourth breath, say to yourself, may you have ease and lightness of body and mind. May you have ease and lightness of body and mind. And see if you can say this with your heart filled with love and generosity toward yourself. You're wishing yourself well. You're sending compassion to your body and your mind. And the word for this breath is love. With the fifth breath, notice if there are any cravings or aversions present in you. Is there any part of you that really wants reality to be different from the way it is right now? Or is there any way that you're fighting against things as they are? Just notice any cravings or aversions. Let yourself feel them without trying to make them go away. They're not your enemy. They're a part of you that needs love and caring. The word for this breath is cravings. With the sixth breath, become aware that everything you need to be happy is already present in this moment. There are infinite reasons to suffer and infinite reasons to be happy. And what matters is where we're putting our attention. So let's not ignore the positive conditions that are available in this moment. Problems do exist, but they're not all that exists. So for this one breath, or 2 breaths, focus on everything in life that is good. We're no longer regretting the past or worrying about the future. We're here and present to the miracles of life. And the word for this breath, letting go. With the 7th breath, become aware that you are alive. Feel the energy of life moving through you. We become fully awake to being alive in the present moment, and we see what a precious thing that is. If you only had a few minutes to live, it would be clear that 24 hours of life is incredibly precious. And the word for this breath, alive. And with the 8th breath, become aware of all the beauty within and without you. Reality is indescribably beautiful. All of our senses deliver this beauty to us like a precious gift. All we have to do is enjoy. And the word for this breath is beauty. Within you and around you. And so I will summarize. You can practice the 8 breaths to joy like this. The first is breath, and each one is in and out. The second is body sensations, then release the tensions, love, compassion for yourself, craving, this is what you have to work on, letting go of all of that, alive, recognizing that you are, and seeing all the beauty. So what I would suggest is try this at home one time where you do just one breath for each of the eight topics. And then if you like it, afterwards you can do a little longer. I mean, as long as you want. It's a very, very nice practice. And you do feel joy at the end, because we are very privileged to be alive now. Even though there's all kinds of mess, like, climate change and political changes around the world and health issues, et cetera, everybody always has problems. Throughout history, humans have always had problems, and they've always dealt with them. And if you can have this sense of joy underneath, then knowing that you have the resources and that everything ultimately is the way it's supposed to be, that our life is like a journey, and everyone is unique, so you might as well enjoy it. Okay. Any quick questions before, I guess you have to end right at the hour?
If you
I'm
have any
sorry.
questions, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you.
you're very, very welcome.
Very, very calming. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. And I hope that these practices will really resonate with you, and one or both. But at least it gives you some choices of what you can do. And, I've been meditating for 55 years, teaching it for 30. Anyway, there really is a progression from when you start as a beginner to when you move through. But the more I go along on this path, the more I realize I know nothing. I know a little bit, but the universe is so vast and awesome that human mind, I don't think, is capable of knowing everything. But we know our little bit, and we can be grateful for it. And that's, every day you just deal with what you have to, putting your full attention at it, and you can't do any better than that. Okay, well, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy the rest of the fall. I hope the snow is supposed to continue till tomorrow, and it looks lovely, but it's not fun to walk in. Anyway, enjoy. And
I'm in Delaware, and we should be having cool weather. We're up into the 70s. So
yeah.
I envy your snow.
Well, we've had the last 2 weeks have been unseasonably warm, like 15 degrees above the norm. The norm is around in the 50s for this time of year. So we've been in the 70s, and it's been sunny and beautiful, but there's a drought. So everybody's happy that there is the snow, and it's going to get warm again on Sunday.
We
It
need
just
water
is.
too.
Yeah, yeah. What is. So, okay. I don't know how you're ending these days, Janet. It's been a while, so you can, I'm gonna stop now and you do whatever you gotta do. Enjoy
right, well, I'm
Rancho
gonna-
Ranch.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask Misha to come back because he usually ends these things for us.
Okay.
Misha?
Yeah, I was just finishing the practice. Thank you.
Oh, good.
It was
So
wonderful.
Misha, are you going to be meeting with anybody? Should I stop recording?
Yeah, stop recording, and then if anybody wants